Monday, March 8th. This past week, at the end of our balcony, a worker was busy taping and covering windows. Because down below, a worker was busily painting waterproofing and covering up the plywood as fast as he possibly could. On the southwest corner, this worker was bobbing up and down in the green cherry picker using an extended handle for the roller. Below our balcony, this worker had covered concrete and plywood, but wasn't sure how to cover up these sun reflections. We aren't even sure where they come from. Beastie Boy continues covering up windows because down below his friend is saying, "Hurry, hurry." Next time I look, they're both up there rolling on the waterproofing. Mustard color doesn't get any more beautiful, but at least we're not offending the cats anymore. Walking up the street, a truck arrives with boxes of, we're not sure what they are, but they look like they might be pretty heavy. When the worker starts pitching them to someone inside, kind of like a basketball, we figure they're not very heavy, and they're probably something unbreakable, like indoor vents. From the street looking north, parapets are up, fourth floor is winding down. Don put Wilbur in the air because Jean and Jack said they were having problems with visual parameters and it needed to be calibrated. But Don couldn't find any problem. It must have been an Apple issue. On the north side, they're busy covering the seams with waterproofing. Another morning, I awake to a cracking sound as the insulation is broken into custom pieces. The two guys on stilts are making a metallic tink-tink on the concrete. What an alarm clock. At the end of that day, I looked up from the woodshop patio and could see how much insulation had been accomplished. Last week, a little cat nicked the edge of a utility line, so the worker is standing there with a shovel to guard the space as little cat continues leveling the area. Later, several trucks arrive. P&M has agreed to try to work on the electrical cable without shutting off the power to LVL residents. This crane pulled the manhole cover and square of concrete off, and men worked most of the day up to their chest in this hole. At the end of a long day, they packed up their gear, wound up the crane and the drill, and went away. There was no electrical shut-off. Morning starts early when you forget to close your bedroom window and the workers arrive. On the solarium, boxes or some kind of unit are attached to the metal strapping. I'm still going to have to ask about this. Down below, a worker is sorting what is still usable lumber and what is trash. After a few hours, only the styrofoam and a few metal pieces are left. Unfortunately, there is never a shortage of trash that gets put out onto the solarium to be carted away. This is the third double flatbed trailer full of wallboard unloaded this week. I decided it was time for something fun and different, and we will learn something along the way. Polar bears were our mascot in high school. We've had snow on and off here in New Mexico, but it is nothing like the Arctic, where polar bears are most comfortable. In March and April, mothers and their cubs emerge from their dens and start taking a look around and figuring out where the food is. We think polar bears are white, but when they're wet, we can see their skin is black to absorb heat from the sun. They have thick layers of hollow, translucent, light-reflecting fur to camouflage them in the snow. Males are huge. They can be 7 to 8 feet long, 4 to 5 feet tall at the shoulder, and weigh 1,700 pounds or more. We often see a mother that has 2 cubs, and that's the way it is if things are ideal. But occasionally that is not the case. When only 1 cub is left, you hear a conversation that goes something like this. "But Mom, that seal would be a really fun playmate." The long-suffering look in Mom's eye says, "It's not a playmate, it's food." Back in New Mexico, daffodils are blooming and spring might really be here this time.
Last week, the roof sheathing was on most of the roof, but not on the hallway. Outside of the parapets was not sheathed yet, and there were only about 2-3 levels of taping and sealing. Most of the action this week is on the other side of the building. We'll see it a little later. I hope that Skyjack is careful and keeps away from that patch of carrots that were planted last week. This is Jack Brayer. It's Wednesday, March 10th. It's sunny and 50-some degrees. It's windy, so Wilbur is wobbly. Looking in this direction, we can really see the anatomy of the roofing materials they're putting on. First of all, there's insulation that comes in panels, and then there are long rolls of membrane that they put on over the insulation. There's a bunch of new scaffolding here, and if you look closely, you can see that they've actually put roofs and ceilings on Block Monster. Did you see how the people got on the roof? I think they either crawled through that little hole in Block Monster, or maybe they're not really there. Here's another hint. Replay the video and look down at the other end. Well, there he is, our Wilbur, in all his glory. And we know we can control how he moves just by controlling the speeds of Larry, Mo, Curly, and Harpo. So we might be feeling pretty confident about our knowledge of helicopter drones. So it's time to meet a new challenge. It's time to meet our new special guest. So here's Ingenuity, nicknamed Ginny, NASA's Mars helicopter. And Wilbur is in love. I told him there's no hope. She's gone, far away, and she's not coming back. But he won't listen. Anyway, we need to figure out how and why Ginny works. First, we need to understand Mars. Mars' atmosphere is 1% the density of Earth. It's equivalent to our atmosphere at 100,000 feet altitude. The highest altitude a helicopter has flown on Earth is 40,000 feet. The gravity on Mars is about 40% that on Earth, which doesn't compensate for the thin air. So Ginny has to work a lot harder on Mars to generate lift. Another big difference on Mars is it's cold. Temperatures range from minus 220 degrees Fahrenheit up to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with an average of about minus 81 degrees Fahrenheit. If you've ever tried to use a cell phone or a camera in freezing weather, you know that batteries are basically useless below 0 degrees. One last difference on Mars: not only are there no GPS satellites, there is no magnetic field, so no compass works. So here's a simulation of what Ginny looks like in action. Some of the differences between Wilbur and Ginny are: Ginny weighs about 4 pounds, where Wilbur weighs about 2 pounds. But Ginny is mostly battery and carries a solar panel because it has to keep itself warm 24 hours a day. Ginny has 2 4-foot diameter carbon fiber propellers counter-rotating on a single shaft, where Wilbur has propellers of 9-inch diameter. Ginny's battery has 10 times the capacity of Wilbur's. Ginny's CPU has about 10 times the power of the Perseverance rover, its mothership. On one day's solar charge of its battery, Ginny can only fly for about 90 seconds, about 150 meters out and then back. So here are some questions to think about for next week. First question: how does Ginny go up and down, left and right, forward and back, and rotate? Be careful, this is tricky. Here's a hint: no propeller speed changes are possible. Here's a second hint: swash plate. Second question: how does Ginny navigate? Remember, there are no GPS satellites on Mars or a magnetic field, so no compass. As a parting thought, Ginny cost about $100 million and will be used for 5 short flights, maybe a total of 5 minutes over a period of about 1 month. And then she will be left behind, abandoned, lonely, thinking she's unloved. Wilbur is sad. But we are on to assisted living. Hi from Assisted Living. Last week, the west end was mostly finished, and it looks about the same. The roof was insulated and no one was working there, as it is today. They were digging on the retaining wall, as they are today. There's new scaffolding there near the east end, and it looks like there's a big confab going on. You think they're about to start stuccoing? The hatch is open on the roof. No one's working there, so it must be that that's so that the rain can get in and spoil the new paint job. We'll keep on a little further here, and as we come around you can see they're doing some new work on the ducts on the ceiling. That's ducts, not ducks. Those guys must have come out of that hatch and walked across the roof, jumped down onto that little square area, and come down that red ladder. Once again, they're not stuccoing my favorite wall back here, but the scaffolding is still there, so there's still hope. On the north wall, all the painting and sealing is done, but the scaffolding is still there. They only have scaffolding on about half the wall, I think because the ground slopes too much toward the west end. Again, we can't see much work going on, and the overall status seems to be about the same as we saw last week. As we'll see, the west end looks pretty good, but it's still about the same as last week. As we come around the west end, you'll get a better look of the work they're doing on the retaining wall. The new roadway going through here seems like it'll really be a tight squeeze. And coming up this week, we have a special added bonus feature, a new mission. We're going back to the carport by the 6000 wing, and we're going to follow the roadway around. We just want to show what a tight squeeze it is at times. Oops, do you see that stop sign right in the middle of the road? This new mission was suggested and planned by Gene Theriault. It's a bit of an adventure for Wilbur because it's windy and because Wilbur flies pretty far from his controller. Wilbur can fly pretty fast because neither the road nor its speed bumps have been installed yet. Every day, the trucks that are going to the kitchen to deliver all of our food have to wind their way back in here, in and amongst all of the obstacles. And at some point here, they have to turn around and back into the alley that we're just about to turn and go down in order to reach the kitchen. Looking at it and thinking about it, I think we should be very grateful that we're not eating canned beans for most of our meals. We invited in a bunch of NASCAR officials to see whether they'd want to use this roadway as a track for one of their races, and they were very impressed. However, they suggested that we'd have to build a big grandstand, and we knew that most of you didn't want to have a bunch of more construction going on, so we've given up on the idea. Keep your eyes sharply peeled here because we're coming up on the really exciting part of this trip around the roadway. A lot of this you've already seen every week as we fly by, maybe in the other direction, but still it's the same. But now, as we turn the corner, this is all brand new, really exciting stuff, and you're going to want to watch it all. How's it going so far? Oh, look at that. Did you see? There was a moose that went across. A moose. Well, we're going to have to petition LVL management so that we can have a moose crossing sign. Can't have mooses going across without a sign. And now we're coming up on the assisted living lobby area, which again we have seen every week. So I guess I should give my usual comment, which is that there's a lot of trucks parked around places and a lot of stacks of stuff. Incidentally, the total amount of video that Wilbur is taking this week is about 7 minutes, which is more than the total amount of video that Ingenuity will take during her entire lifetime. I asked Wilbur whether he thought he could get over his love of Ginny, and he looked at me and he said, "I dream of Ginny with the light brown hair, born like a vapor on the soft summer air."